Israel, we have like a trifecta of problems. We have the coronavirus, but we have our own very serious political crisis that we're going to talk about now. And by extension, we also have an economic issue, and hopefully it doesn't get a lot worse, but it is certainly an issue now. So it's a challenging time here in Israel, and one reason why we wanted to show our supporters, our partners in the diaspora, that we are having conversations like this, is that we feel very, very strongly that Im Tirtzu's mission is more important now perhaps than ever. And maybe, Matan, you could just spend a minute on that and reinforce why we have this very strong conviction. Because I will just say, as an old guy, and it doesn't apply to me, my kids are you know, my wife and I are empty nesters here, although our youngest just went back to the Air Force a few hours ago. But you, Matan, you are working under very challenging circumstances. You have 3 delicious and high energy kids at home, and you're still trying to do the very, very critical work that Im Tirtzu is about. And it's not just you, it's all of our team. We're blessed with people with children, with lots of family obligations. It's not an easy time. But I want you to speak to, for just a second, about how important it is for us to be doing our efforts, especially given all the political uncertainty.
So yes, as you said, and so we are talking about it all the time, is the necessary of Im Tirtzu in this time. From one side, we are a social movement, and a lot of our volunteers, a lot of our activists are working now against the corona issue, right? A lot of volunteers are helping people that are at homes and buy food for them and supplies. And we help a lot of people. Lots of our volunteers, this is what they are doing now. This is what is important. Im Tirtzu is such a big movement with a lot of people. It is very important that we will help the people in need. From the other side, the political situation in Israel, this crisis that we so deep in, demand that Im Tirtzu also will stay not only active, but also very, very, will keep its high visibility and a very high profile voice, because we are seeing 2 very deep problems. And we'll also talk about it, right, Doug, a lot, about the anti-Zionist party, the Joint List. And we are seeing it very strong from the media and from the cultural elite. And they are saying, who is criticizing now the Joint List is only because he's a racist. And no one talked about the fact that we don't care if they are Arabs or not. We care about, this is an anti-Zionist, Israeli identity in Israel. So someone needs to bring this voice loud and clear. And this is one. The second thing is the Supreme Court that cooperate with this phenomena of giving hechsher to the anti-Zionist movement, and this hechsher of taking control on the Knesset in not a legitimate way. So it demands us to be very active. You want to?
Yeah, just by way of perspective for our diaspora friends, because we are in now, after 3 elections, no one has a majority. The only way the opposition, Benny Gantz, can put together a coalition government is if he relies on the support of the Joint List, the Arab 4 parties that range from the Communist Party to the pro-terror party, and they have something like 15 seats. And the only way he can cobble together a majority is with their support. Now, what this means is that he would basically be kowtowing to their demands, and they have already been making demands like no Jews can go up to the Temple Mount. No, the IDF cannot respond to terrorist attacks from Gaza. I mean, things that would basically take the country into a profoundly anti-Zionist direction. just by way of reminder, the whole basis of Im Tirtzu, found in 2007, was the understanding that post-Zionism, anti-Zionism was a creeping and growing phenomenon in Israel. It started on campuses, and now we've seen for the first time in the top reaches of the government, they are willing to make common cause with people who are not just post-Zionists, not just anti-Zionists, they are anti the state of Israel. So once we start to have a government that looks like this, who knows where we go? And so we, Im Tirtzu, little Im Tirtzu, becomes a very, very vital, necessary, essential voice to say, stop this madness. This is crazy. We have no business making common cause with these people. This has nothing to do with the Arab people.
And what is important, what you are saying, is that first of all, they have now a majority. There is a coalition of Sinat Chinam, a coalition of hatred that wants to replace Netanyahu, that theoretically, to replace a prime minister, it's okay, it's a democracy. But so they have a majority, they have 61 votes. So theoretically, what they need to do now is create a government, but they don't. This coalition is agree with one each other about doing laws against the prime minister, but from the other side, they don't agree with one each other enough to create a government. Now, so in the smoke screen of the corona, they are doing an amazing stuff. So, for example, like they pay for a lot of things to the joint list, to the anti-Zionist party, to maintain this coalition. For example, the Kamenetz law. What is the Kamenetz law? Chok Kamenetz. It's saying that it was a decision of the government to stop the illegal building of Arabs. Basically, not legal building everywhere, but Arabs saw it personally because there are a lot of illegal houses of Arabs. And the joint list, they say, no, you will need to give hechsher to all those illegal buildings, right, and you will destroy this Kamenetz law, and only like this, we will be in this coalition. And what Benny Gantz and his guys said, they said, okay. So,
So it's right out of Orwell. The Knesset Arrangements Committee just set up a committee, the committee that is supposed to be in charge of the rights of wounded IDF soldiers and terrorist families. Who gets control of this committee? The Joint List Party that supports terror. This is like, you can't make this stuff up. This is like an absurdity beyond absurdities. But this is what we're afraid of. This is the world we're facing right now.
Because here, our first thing that we want to attack, the first thing that we want to say is like, look, to cooperate with an anti-Zionist party, a party that wants to change the flag, to change the national anthem, to change the Chok HaShvut, the fact that Jews can see Israel as a haven, they want to change it. Now, to say that those ideas are legitimate and to give so much things, so much assets to this party is something very, very dangerous to the Zionist idea, to the future of Israel. Now, because unfortunately, and of course the Supreme Court is not saying this is wrong to promote laws when you don't create a government. They need to create a government, but they don't. And the Supreme Court cooperates with this phenomena. So Im Tirtzu is fighting those three, the anti-Zionist phenomena in the Knesset, the Supreme Court that cooperate with this, and the media that is like backing this phenomena and not say how problematic it is, how anti-democratic it is, because basically, look, they now want to change the chairman of the Knesset, Yuli Edelstein. Most of the time, like 70 years, Israel, you create a government and then you replace the chairman of the Knesset. They don't have a way to create a government, so for the meantime, they do other stuff. This is not democratic. So in Im Tirtzu, because the media is not talking about it, this is the need. Because we have such a huge Facebook page of almost 250,000 people in our Hebrew page, and our English page also like jumped to the roof in the last few weeks. So the need of a voice became so much. So, for example, the question is if to shut Im Tirtzu down for the meantime because of the corona, it's out of the question because we are fighting. It was yesterday or day before the car parade? A day before.
2 days ago, yes.
Yeah, 2 days.
Day before yesterday.
The day before yesterday, when we did a huge caravan, car parade, convoy from the Supreme Court to the Knesset to shout against it with dozens, hundreds of cars, lots of people call and say, why are you doing it? You risk yourself because of the corona. So we are saying, but what can we do? How can we be quiet when those things happening?
Exactly. Dafka, it's exactly now when people are sitting at home, like you and me and like everyone else, and we're losing our communal contact. We're losing our social contact, that we need Im Tirtzu more than ever, because Im Tirtzu has kept that sense of vision, kept that sense of mission, and look, you know, by and large, they're young guys, and it's like, you know, okay, so whatever, I'll be okay. You know, I'm an old guy, and so my wife has me on a tight leash. I'm not allowed to go here. I'm not allowed to go there. But thank goodness we are out and about and providing the people of Israel with perspective about the importance of these kinds of issues. You mentioned the issue of the government. You mentioned Yuli Edelstein. We're all very worried, and Matan, maybe you can speak to this. You know, it looks like if Gantz doesn't push the nuclear button about a minority government, he can't put together a government. The only thing he can do is have his majority in the Knesset, like you said, pass laws that will prevent, say, the prime minister from being able to run again because he's under indictment. And all of this is profoundly negative. There's no vision being expressed. There's no, like, here's what we want to do for the people. There's no, here's the direction we think we need to go given the virus. It's all one thing, and you mentioned it, but it needs to be emphasized. This is all about shooting the prime minister and taking him down, and then they have nothing to offer.
Yes, and the thing is that even let's say that because of the corona issue, someone will act as a gentleman, and they will create an emergency government, a united government between Benny Gantz, blue and white, and Netanyahu, the Likud. Even then, the importance to continue to educate also the Arabic society, by the way, and also the general public in Israel, is to say, look, we still didn't forget about what happened here with the anti-Zionist party. The fact that even if at the end of the day, even if today, yes, they will announce a new government and the joint list will be in the opposition, still, they so gave, what happened here with this negotiation gave them a lot of hechsher. All the bad ideas got a lot of hechsher. Now it's legit that legitimate that the Knesset member will say, I don't want to say that Hamas is a terror organization because I think the shooting is Israeli soldiers, it's okay.
Right.
Those ideas, to give them hechsher, it's so dangerous to Israeli society.
Very dangerous, and someone has to keep pointing out that these values are unacceptable. These values are dangerous, and they can lead to the unraveling of our society. You know, the success of Israel, the success of the West is fragile. This is not like a given. It's not like you wake up and you can count on everything being the way it always has been. you have to cherish it. You have to maintain it, as you said.
Yes.
You have to protect it. And my desire to be associated with Im Tirtzu for the past 12 years has been based on that. This is one organization that sees the need to continue to protect and to cherish the values that will keep us going into the future. And if we don't do this, we're in trouble.
And so here, another thing that is very important is to provide the knowledge. Because, for example, now there are no campuses. We stopped the academia. Everybody are learning in Zoom. Everybody are in social media. So even our panels and debates and lectures, we are doing all those things live on Facebook, on our social media platforms that is very big in Israel, because it is important to provide the people the knowledge that they will know how to justify why they still need to criticize the Supreme Court on what is going on, and to stay very strong and to continue to believe in Israel as a Jewish state. I sometimes hear unbelievable ideas in the media, like maybe Israel need to be a state of all its citizens, and like this we will have a stable government. It is exactly the opposite. The alternative of Israel is Jordan and Iraq and Syria. Those are our neighbors. If Israel will not be a Jewish state, we will be an anarchy and hell, like we're seeing here in our neighbors. So it's so important to have that the Israeli society will keep its faith in itself.
Matan, let me ask you a question, because you are very plugged in politically. You know a lot of the players. You have a good sense of what is going on or not going on. I'm sure our friends overseas would love to get your insight into what you think might come down over the next couple of weeks as we try to sort out our political difficulties.
Look, as I see it, the problem is that Benny Gantz, until now anyway, as I said, he didn't decide for himself. He always listened to his consultants. So he doesn't give a decision one time. If he will go above it and will have the courage to say, look, there is not a choice. We have to do a united government. Then I think things will be okay. But if Yair Lapid and all the people that are behind him will continue to press him, because they care only about one thing, that Netanyahu will not be there. So if he will continue to be a hostage of his consultants, then we are going to an election. If he will decide, if he will do the gentleman decision and lead his party to a joint government, united government, then I think it will be okay. For now, I think it's like 70% that maybe it will be a united government, by the way. And I hope it will be okay.
But Tom, what's your take on what Yuli Edelstein, who is someone who we regard as a friend of Im Tirtzu, someone who we have great respect for, what he did in resigning and in criticizing the Supreme Court as part of his resignation?
So, tell you the truth, at the beginning, my first instinct was that I didn't like it, because I said it would be better if he would say, I don't care what the Supreme Court is saying, because the Supreme Court cannot decide on the Knesset schedule. But from the other side, I really much appreciate and love the attitude of the conservative camp that doesn't want to break the tools, to break the game. So by resigning, he still play a political game, but he didn't break the rules. So I appreciate it. I think it was a good decision. And I hope at the end what will happen is that it will be the Supreme Court will also understand that what he's doing is so problematic. And again, without the corona issue, I know it was like demonstration of maybe even 1 million people. Look, we now just count in our caravan convoy car parade that we did were hundreds of cars. Although the corona, although people are so afraid to go out of their homes, so I believe those decisions would never happen in a regular time.
Right.
Can I ask you?
Matan, I would just say,
yeah.
Sure. I was just going to say, though, on this point, as an American Oleh, and actually, I think I remember I actually have a law degree and practiced for about a week and a half in the United States. But the analogy to the American legal situation is jarring. You would never see the US Supreme Court tell the United States Congress how to conduct its business. There is this idea of separation of powers. There is an executive, there's a legislature, there's the judiciary, and they are each supreme in their own realm. Here in our country, because we don't have a written constitution, for the last 20-something years, the court has taken on itself more power, more discretion, fewer boundaries. And there is nothing today that they feel that they cannot opine about. That there's nothing that they cannot rule on. They have no self-limitations. And this is what Edelstein, if you read his statements, and of course the press won't cover the totality of what he said, but if you read what he said, this is what he was objecting to. He's saying that the court should not be telling the Knesset how to run its affairs. And when it does, that's called dictatorship. You know, the court likes to think that anyone who disagrees with them, oh, you're threatening democracy, oh, you're undermining democracy. But meantime, it's the pot calling the kettle black. What they are doing is taking more and more power onto themselves, and they are becoming an oligarchy, the rule of a handful of people. And even that, I think, for our American friends, is a way that you need to look at this situation.
So I agree on what you're saying, and I think another thing that is important to say here is that also we are always saying to all the people, all the public, all the time, that it is more than just taking control on the democracy and run it like a dictatorship. The goal is not to destroy the democracy. The goal is to change the Jewish identity of Israel. If you are seeing the decisions of the Supreme Court in Israel in the last decade, you see that it is a post-Zionist way of mind. We know that the national bill, the national law is next that they will touch. And the Chok HaShvut, the one that, how do you say Chok HaShvut in English, Doug?
With the nation state law.
No, the Chok HaShvut.
Oh, the law of return, the law of return.
Yes.
Yes.
We know
the law of return. Sorry.
So we know by fact that those are the two. Look,
yes.
When Im Tirtzu, we said all the time for so much years that there is an anti-Zionist wave. It is coming like a tsunami, and we need to be prepared. And a lot of people in the beginning, they say, you are insane, you are imagining stuff. But with the years, we are seeing this tsunami is coming. And the clash is an unbelievable coincidence. This clash is now under the smoke screen of the corona. So it's even worse. It's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
So I wanted also to ask you a question. What do you think? Like, you made Aliyah, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, in my opinion, when people are doing Aliyah, they also hope like they are doing Aliyah because they believe in the future of the state. As a Jewish state, as a Jewish democratic state, when you are seeing what is going on here, this danger to our identity as a country, how do you see it? Like, are you afraid? I'm afraid, by the way. I really hope things will be okay. How do you see it? as one who comes from other country.
Right, right. Well, obviously, it's very concerning, all the uncertainty. And what we've been talking about in terms of this growing trend of an acceptability of anti-Zionism or post-Zionism is very concerning to me. But I take comfort in a couple of things. One is in this last election, this third election, when the prime minister finally got out and he followed a game plan that we had used in a previous election of going to the periphery, going to his strongholds. Guess what? He got 10% more mandates than he did the previous time. So the idea that, well, the people are tired of him, there's Bibi fatigue, it's, everyone's, can't deal with it. Not true, not true. The other thing that gives me great hope is you, meaning you, Im Tirtzu. When I see young people as devoted and as committed and as passionate and as willing to work hard for nothing, no reward other than, mishamayim, for the sake of heaven, for the sake of the Jewish people, I am very encouraged. And I think that is ultimately our ace in the hole. I tell my friends in the United States, the irony about Israel is we have a very strong people and a very dysfunctional government. The people are stronger than its government. Who's leading who? I think ultimately you're going to see the people leading the government here, meaning that they will force the government to do the right thing. They will force the government to stay on the path of cherishing Israel as a Jewish state, as a Jewish and democratic state. So I have confidence in my fellow citizens. And I am very excited to be able to do my small part to help them by virtue of working with Im Tirtzu. I think our mission is more important today than ever, and these crazy times are really very much a proof of that.
By the way, here I agree with you about the government. I think when you look at the timeline, the reason that we created the legal division was only because we saw that the government doesn't do enough, or even when they create bills, they don't force the other systems to do something about it. So our legal division is going and go to ministers and say, if you will not force the law, we will take you to the Supreme Court. So we force the government to force the law. Another issue, but this is completely because of this anti-Zionist ideas that came so strongly in the last months. Also, our allies were under attack. Like, I think it's the bereaved families, the wounded IDF soldiers, Ethiopian guys, but the bereaved families and the soldiers are like such a hard voice against the anti-Zionist party, but they were attacked by the left. How do you see what happened there?
Well, I'm not a big fan of the left. Because I think that ultimately their agenda is to seize power, to have control, and they do not share what I think is most important to us, which is the welfare of our people and the welfare of our society. The welfare of the society will be whatever they say is in the best interest of the society. And so it's to me, it's despicable that they would attack two groups that have paid an enormous price to this country and who also, like Im Tirtzu, are doing this for the sake of strengthening the country. There's no agenda there. There's no secret agenda with the bereaved families or the wounded IDF veterans. It is they see this country needing to be protected, needing to be nurtured. And they have, to my way of thinking, earned our gratitude and trust to speak out. So I think it's absolutely reprehensible that they would be attacked. But it's not necessarily surprising.
Yes, and I think the result of this attack was, again, only because of anti-Zionist politicians became like celebrity. If Ahmed Tibi had the courage to do like this in front of a bereaved mother who lost her child, this, again, if not the corona, I think the sky should fall on something like that. And everybody said the left and the media, yeah, it's legitimate, it's okay. They didn't speak nice to Ahmed Tibi.
Right. Look, this is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So first of all, Chodesh Tov to you and to all of us. And Nisan is the month of our freedom, of our redemption, right? And it's amazing that here we are 2 weeks away from Pesach. We're all going to celebrate Pesach just like the original Pesach, in our homes. Can't go out, right? By ourselves. There is what goes around comes around, the history repeating itself aspect to this. But it is appropriate that right now, this time of year, when we're very focused in our tradition on the idea of freedom, on the idea of redemption, that our challenge, our mission, our efforts become that much more important. And what I would like to ask our friends who are watching this is, if these kinds of updates are useful for you, we would love to keep you updated. We don't have to make this a one-time deal. We can come back to you on a regular basis. So if you can let us know if this is useful, please do, and we'd be happy to continue to share our thoughts and the challenges that we are working on.